Southwest of London in England was where I was born. A place called Isleworth. Famous for cricket, I guess, but that's something I don't play. So that was some time ago, and I spent a lot of my childhood with my parents traveling from a very young age, so that was really very lucky, in a gypsy caravan, various places in Europe. And so my eyes were opened at a very young age in that respect. And later on, after the usual teenage kind of years, headed up to Scotland. Why colder place? I didn't know at the time, but Scotland is just such a beautiful place as well, and that's where I learned more about my family history there in Scotland, and I worked there in various places, met a lot of really wonderful people, and then I ended up studying there too. I went to university and studied photography initially, and then moved on to film and specialized in art direction and writing, basically. Art direction, writing, and producing. It was a really fun time. A lot of pressure actually on actually making a movie. So a lot of biting of fingernails and stuff like that, but very rewarding in the end. And again, just working with really good people, talented, creative people. Always wanted to head in the direction where my sort of creative feel would lead me, and also that travel bug too. So I started traveling when I was 20. First really went to Australia at the time, a working holiday, all sorts of different things like sheep shearing and caretaker of a jazz club, and you name it, all kinds of different crazy things. Sometimes a few jobs at the same time, that kind of thing. But you have to do that when you're pushed into a situation like that. I think I arrived in Australia with about 100 Australian dollars to my. That was it. So it was a learning curve, and fun again, fun. Australia is a beautiful place, very big place. You need a lot more than a year really to see the whole place. And that also led me to Asia. At that time, Australia to Asia, and basically I was just wanting to head towards, I just love the sun. I've always loved the sun, so I just loved the idea of, sitting on a hammock for a while on a beach, and that sounded great. I just wanted to relax and kind of listen to my thoughts and just be with nature. That was, I was always heading more towards nature. And Thailand is where I really spend most of my time. And it's also Thailand where I first started writing poetry and prose and getting into just listening to your inner self more in that sense. And that was 91, 92. And I'd done a lot of traveling before I decided what I really wanted to do. And then that's when I went to Scotland to study, like having done lots of traveling first and deciding what it is I really love to do. And that's really important to me, is finding out what one really loves, like the soul of a man or woman. If once you can actually pinpoint that one thing which you really love to do, then you cannot turn your back on it. You have to keep following whichever direction it takes you. And if it brings you money, great. Good luck, whatever. But the most important thing is to listen to yourself. And Thailand, I first started painting as well back in 2000, the millennium actually. That was one of my dreams back in Scotland, was to be back on the beach by the year 2000, and I was back in South Thailand, and that's when I started painting, back in 2000. And from Thailand, that led me to Taiwan, having met many travelers in Thailand who'd all kind of come there and they're following something, but just wanting to find a peace, and people with similar ideas and ways of life. And they mentioned, I said, hey Tim, you should go to Taiwan. And I came to Taiwan because it was a way I could actually keep painting, and also just stay in Asia, which had become a real second home to me. And this was in August 2002. I first got to Taipei. Taipei, crazy. I know what a city it was. I remember I developed some terrible heat rash when I first arrived, carrying a backpack across the city for what seemed like half a day. Anyway, it was very hot, like a very strange kind of hot in Taipei city, and in a sense a kind of dirty heat. It's very hard to explain, but I spent many years working and living in Taipei, just again painting as much as I could, and meeting as many artists as I possibly could, and having shows and exhibitions, and a lot of them in cafes and bars. You know, that's kind of like the way many people start, in a sense. But nevertheless, lots of work got done, you know, over a period of time. More had been done in a shorter period of time before, but you know, with trying to sort of survive and then paint as well, it's a compromise you have to try and find. And I was really missing the nature, being in a city, and for a while I felt a bit stuck, a bit kind of caged, as if, you know, I needed to sort of get out, and finally things led that way, and I headed south to Dulan. I'd heard various things about Dulan for about the past 6 or 7 years. People mentioning there is a real feel to it, and there's a vibe, but the word I would say, it's an energy which is felt down here, which brought me down here. And again, it was like being back in Thailand, my roots, where I was really able to express myself creatively. And so I've been doing exactly that since I came down here, and it's a great feeling to be back in a place where I could actually sense that again. And so, do I miss Taipei City? No, not at all, really. I mean, like London is a great city, but a good place to visit, but to live is very different. I'd say the same about Taipei. I mean, it has its fun and your friends, and you'd have a crazy time in like one weekend. You know, you could spend a fair amount of money, have a crazy time, but I would want to leave quite quickly, head back to Dulan, and the neighboring parts of Dulan as well. It's just so beautiful down here, and more open, one with nature as such, and the people are very like on the same kind of level. So it's a similar way of thinking and a way of seeing life as well. So this is important to myself and these other people too, because perhaps we see things differently, but in a sense we've been drawn here for a reason. And that's a little expression my mum always likes. She says, all things happen for a reason. And the more, you know, the more things do happen, and the places you go, you kind of have to think about that sometimes, and perhaps it is true, you know. Maybe it's hard to see into the future as to the direction you may have taken. Is it the right one? But you have to stop asking that question. It's so living with yourself, living in the present is important, and otherwise you miss it, you know. So, and to be creative, make films, sing, play guitar, paint, you name it, all sorts of different creative avenues, that's a wonderful way of living in the moment. And if you've been able to find yourself in a place like Dulan, where it is possible to do that one thing that you love to do, you know, your passion, follow your passion, then that's what it's all about.